B2B marketers, get ready. The world's leading B2B marketing expo is returning to the Los Angeles Convention Center September 20th and 21st. This is the world's leading event for marketing solutions and innovation, and tickets are free. Join thousands of marketing professionals just like you to learn from over 100 industry expert speakers, educational masterclasses, and over 150 exhibitors. Hear keynotes from Amazon Music, Google, Netflix, Twitch, and Uber. It's September 20th and 21st at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Free tickets. Go to bit.ly/MPNB2B to register. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/MPNB2B. The Marketing Podcast Network is a proud partner of the B2B Marketing Expo for 2023. We'll see you in LA.
Welcome to The Art of Sway, the podcast that uncovers the power of influence and its impact on all areas of our lives. I'm your host, Danielle Wiley. Each week, we'll explore the many facets of influence through candid conversations with industry insiders, from brand marketers to social workers, educators, leaders, and more. Let's dive in. Katie Stoller is an influencer marketing veteran. She began her career in 2009 in Los Angeles working in fashion PR, dressing A-list celebrities and working celebrity gifting suites at award shows. After LA, Katie moved home to Chicago, where she had a decade-long career working at top global PR agencies, Ogilvy, Ketchum, and Golan. She then led the influencer marketing team at Fiat Growth, a fintech growth consultancy, working closely with affiliate and performance marketing teams. In the last year, Katie has transitioned to being an independent marketing consultant for businesses and talent. She also launched her education company, InfluencerInsiderGuide.com, where she puts out valuable resources for those in the influencer marketing industry. Katie is an active volunteer for March 4th, We March 4th, FOURTH.org, a gun violence prevention advocacy group where she sits on the marketing team. Katie is a member and mentor with the Women in Influencer Marketing Networking Group, as well as a mentor for DePaul University students. She lives in the suburbs of Chicago with her husband, 2 kids, and a feisty Japanese chin. It's always great to talk to another Chicago agency veteran. Katie and I never worked together directly, but we definitely ran in the same circles and had many of the same experiences working in the Chicago PR world as Influencer began its epic growth. Katie is now an independent consultant doing some really interesting work. I think many listeners will be especially intrigued by her new educational resource, the Influencer Insider Guide. Enjoy. Well, hi. It's so great to have you on and meet you live. I feel like we intersect with each other on LinkedIn all the time, and I don't know that we've ever connected one-on-one. So this is awesome. Thank you for reaching out and agreeing to come on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yes. So I wanted to start and just talk a little bit about your career journey because to me, it's interesting because it's like mine, which sounds very self-serving. But it's similar to mine in that you were in Chicago working at big PR firms, working in influencer at those big PR firms, and then left and decided to kind of go on a different path. So it just kind of love to hear a bit more about that journey and what your path is now and why you decided to just the whole spiel, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the bulk of my career was in Chicago at big PR agencies. So all of that is true, but it starts back a little bit before that. I graduated in 2008 from the University of Illinois. Worst recession. Honestly, it's very similar vibes to what we're going through right now. But didn't know what I wanted to do. There were no jobs, no one was getting internships. It was just very bleak. And I always knew I wanted to at some point live in California. So I just got on a plane and moved to California. And it was out there that I kept saying I wanted to do PR, but I didn't even really know what that meant.
Yeah.
And out in California, it's very different than what it is here. But I ended up getting an amazing internship at a fashion boutique agency and working with pretty much primarily just celebrities. Our entire goal was getting clothes on celebrities, which
Fun.
is so eerie thinking about that now because it was exactly what we're doing now with influencer marketing. But we didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing traditional PR, sending them clothes, trying to get them photographed by paparazzi, and then they'd get in People and Us Weekly and all the, paparazzi type of magazines. So I really think that shaped kind of the rest of my career. Obviously at the time I didn't realize, but did that for like around 6 months, ended up moving back to Chicago and then doing the agency thing for 10 years. And I knew pretty early on in my PR career that pitching media was not the vibe. That was not what I was good at.
I feel like there's so few people at those big PR agencies who actually do that. Like, I mean, Edelman is so big and I was there for a long time and I know like 3 people there who were doing that and doing it well. Like I think that's what people think of when they think of PR, but the reality is there's so much more involved and that's so specialized and so difficult and just not where most of us end up spending our time.
Totally. And I'm glad I sort of had, like, when you're a junior, I mean, I was an intern when I started. When you're junior, everyone's doing media because, again, it's like only the very specialized few kind of like grow with that in their career. But in the beginning, everyone's just on calls all day. I mean, this was back in 2012. So, like, we emailed, but a lot of it was just picking up the phone and getting hung up on and having people not answer. But I'm kind of glad I like went through that because there is some similarity with pitching brands now when I work with my influencer clients and just having that like understanding of kind of like the sales part of all of it and like the cold outreach to people and being comfortable. It's a very like pillar kind of part of our industry. So I'm glad I did it, but I knew very early on that like the media side was not what I was going to be good at. And I figured out fairly early, 2015, 2016, that I loved the concept of working with like real people to tell these stories. And that's kind of when everything was blossoming.
I mean, again, similar, we'll just make it all about me. Similar to me, you were pitching it sounds like you were pitching influencer programs to clients before they were asking for. I mean, now obviously influencer is a part of pretty much every marketing campaign and it's expected to be in there. The question of who owns that, whether it's PR or another agency, is a whole other conversation. But like now it's just kind of understood that that's included in the overall mix. But it sounds like back when you first started doing it, that wasn't always the case. Like, what did that feel like? And what made you so sure that this made sense?
So this is actually like my favorite story, but I was working on Whirlpool at the time at Ogilvy, and one of the Whirlpool like sub products or whatever was Gladiator. And it's, for people that don't know, it's like the really cool garages. Like if you know any like rich people with huge garages that are like completely done amazing, it's probably Gladiator product. There's not.
I'm just thinking like let my husband not ever hear.
Yes. And I want to do my garage so bad, but it's like very expensive. But they do like those, like it kind of looks, I don't, what's that word? It's like a pattern, but like a toolbox kind of pattern. But,
oh yeah, like that, like the raised metal.
yes,
Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
They do the like floor tiles. They have a refrigerator. They have a couple like appliances, but then it's mostly like the hanging shelves, and it's these like metal bars, like slats, and you can adjust like for your skis or your bike, whatever. So it's a cool product, and we were getting like decent hits, but like how many reporters can talk about that? You know, like a consumer product, and like one of my coworkers who's actually amazing at media relations got this like big spread in New York Times, and from there we were like, what else are we going to get? Like
Right.
you can only get so much press. So we were kind of in one of these like strategy sessions. I was like an SAE at the time, like not super senior. And I said to my boss, I'm like, my sorority sister who has this blog that I read every day. This is back when like you weren't necessarily following everyone on Instagram, but you were actually going to your friends' blogs and reading them. And I'm like, I think she's moving like in a week or two. What if we send her some Gladiator stuff? And he's like, I don't know. Like he kind of was like, okay, like I don't really know what you're talking about, but okay. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me from Gamma Phi Beta, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I love your blog and I saw that you're moving and I work with Gladiator. We would love to completely redo your garage. And she responded and was like, huh? She was like, you're asking to send me like an entire like outdone garage for free? And I was like, yeah, like I'm like, I don't know how much I can get you, but I'll get you as much as I can. And she was like, yes. She's like, I will do whatever you guys want. Yes. So I went back to my boss and we went back to the client, and I think they agreed on like $6,500 worth of product, which like for how expensive the stuff is was like maybe like half of the garage. It wasn't like a full thing, but it was enough to take beautiful pictures. So we got it going. I set up shipment. Like me and her dad were on the phone because he was setting it up. I was walking him through like how it how it works. Like it was so scrappy. And the next day, like after we sent it, she sends us like hundreds of high resolution pictures. Gorgeous. I mean, it looked like it was out of Better Homes and Gardens magazine. She just had this like beautiful photography style. And I sent it to my client and they're like, what is this? Like, no, everyone was just so confused. And I was like, this is the future, people. Like, this is real people who actually want these real products, using it in their real house. You know, this was the first time that any of us had like seen this happen. That wasn't a celebrity, you know, like I had done this with celebrities, gotten them product and gotten them photographed, but I'd never done it with just like a girl that only had 20,000 unique monthly readers or whatever.
That was going to be my question. Was there any, like, from your client's perspective, was there any questioning of how many readers she had and wanting to see metrics? And like, everyone's heard me talk about this 100 times before, but like PR metrics are so fuzzy and there's so much like wink, wink going on. Like, yeah, sure, this got X million impressions. And like, we know we were multiplied everything by 3 for really no reason whatsoever. Like, it's all just like totally
arbitrary.
sketchy. Yeah. But were they questioning that piece of it?
I think
at
it was
all?
just the unique monthlies was all they cared about. And I think she had around like 20,000, which like is a lot for just a random person's blog that wasn't part of a network or anything. And I think she probably had an Instagram at this point, but it wasn't like something that we were monetizing. Like we weren't paying her to put it on there. I think she might have just put it on there. I don't remember, but I think that was sort of just the metric was like, does she have enough monthly readers to make this make sense? And I do remember like in the recap of it all, it was like we were adding it as like a line item, the same like with the New York Times, you know, and
Yeah.
the metrics in PR are just like a mess. And it's funny because like you were saying you multiply by 3, like some agencies, like they all have like their own way of like adding multipliers and it's all for different reasons. And it's just like, I don't know, like it is just so kind of like messy. But yeah, it wasn't really their priority because their priority, I think they saw the value of how much like essentially free content we got. Because if they were to get all of that beautiful content shot by a SAG photographer with, you know, SAG actors, like it would have been a production. We would have had to like hire, you know,
Right.
makeup artists and have a production studio. And she just did in her garage and just like sent us the file. So like, I think that was more kind of what everyone was impressed with. And I was at that point, I was like hooked. I was like, this is the future and this is what I want to do.
And it sounds like you guys got like free use, carte blanche of all of that amazing, gorgeous content, which would never happen.
I don't even think we signed a contract. I think it was like 100% a handshake deal, which obviously I would never condone these days. But she was just like, I will do this for you if you send me the stuff. And I was like, the stuff's on the way. Like it was that simple.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of so many changes from how that was to how things are now. But from your perspective, like what are some of the biggest, what's different now? I mean, it's kind of a silly question because everything, what's not different now? But like, what are some of the big changes that you've seen from that to kind of where you're at now?
I feel like from that point in my career until like 2020, I guess, I don't know if that's the exact moment, but there was this like glory day of influencer marketing where like brands were just so impressed to see what average Joes on the street could come up with. And there was this sense of like, even just the brand, like it didn't have to be the founder of the company or the person that invented the product, but just like the brand managers just had this sense of pride watching everyday people interpret a brief and creating content. You know, it was like the old days of everything being scripted and everything, you know, it was a guy, you know, the Mad Men style where a bunch of people in a room were coming up with concepts. Like everything now was just coming out of people's brains and being interpreted in different ways. And there was so much diversity and variety. And there was a pride to that when you worked on a brand because you were like, I love seeing my brand being interpreted in all these fun ways. And then around the 2020, 2021 era, I feel like there was this like boom during COVID because we were all sitting on our computers all day long. Something changed. And brands were kind of like, okay, we get it. Influencers are everywhere and they're really good at creating content and we have all this beautiful content, but now what? And now we're in the now what era to the extreme of like, where's the conversion? Where's the data? What am I getting out of this? Every single cent I'm putting into this influencer needs to come out at the end. And I get frustrated because I was like living in the glory days of like, but the content's so beautiful and the comments are amazing and people are sharing and liking and engaging, and the brands are coming back and being like, so what? Like, I don't care about that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's been frustrating to me for a long time, just in terms of the double standard and what's acceptable in PR or what's acceptable in traditional media. And like our CRO comes from a TV background, and she's selling TV commercials based on how many eyeballs are watching the show. Like, they're not watching the commercials. They're, like, it's so fuzzy when it comes to traditional media. And even going back before 2020, there's always been this higher expectation from social media, I feel like, because we did have real numbers. You can see exactly how many eyeballs, you can see exactly how many clicks. I think for me, what changed in 2020 was this sudden expectation that influencer was lower down the funnel than maybe it is, at least for the vast majority of creators out there. Just this expectation that I think because of just the growth of D2C and the fact that everyone was buying stuff online because they had to, there was this assumption that influencer was the way to that, and that an influencer campaign was only successful if it led to a certain amount of purchases.
That's a good point. I feel like 2020 was the shift, and it wasn't because someone like cracked the code on influencer. I think it was just necessity. Like, that was the only way to purchase. So they were
Right.
seeing the ROI, doing amazing. Like, they were putting 5K in for an influencer and actually seeing that return in like a week or 2 weeks. And 2021 started, things were opening up. People were going to restaurants, people were going to stores. 2022 came and the world really opened up and we were almost back to normal. And here we are in 2023, and you're not getting anything out of paying 5,000. I mean, chances of putting 5,000 in and getting that back out quickly is just not happening anymore. So
Right.
it was, I think, very much this like mind shift because of necessity that like maybe we haven't come back. The pendulum hasn't swung back to the brand awareness that it
Right.
started in.
And so jumping back to your career, I feel like we got sidetracked by like thinking of all our lovely memories of influencer times gone by. But what precipitated your move out of the big PR agency
So
world?
yeah, so more recently. So I was at Ogilvy for 5-ish years, Ketchum for 4-ish years, and then went over to Golan, which great agency. They have so many creative people, and I worked on really cool things. I was there for 6 months, and I had every intention of staying. I never really like saw myself being at a big agency. I didn't see like running an agency or, being super, super at the top. I'm much more of like an entrepreneurial type of person, always have been. So it wasn't that surprising, but I got an offer that kind of just fell in my lap from Fiat, which is where I spent the last year and a half. And it was with a growth marketing consultancy. So like very different than anything I had done. I didn't even like really honestly know what growth marketing encompassed at the time. And they wanted to bring influencer in to help kind of just like pad up what they did with the affiliate work that they were doing and the performance work that they were doing. And they just kept getting asked about influencers because in the growth world, they're just looking for anything that can help user acquisition and sales. So I went in kind of being like, I don't know about this, but we'll see how it goes, and we did some really like great work together. But at the end of the day, quick conversion, which is what growth marketing is all about. It's like fast and steady growth is not really how influencer works. And this is also coinciding with exactly what we just talked about, the 2021, 2022 kind of world opening up. And most of our clients were app based and like rewards based. So we did some really great like educational content about like how the apps worked, why you should incorporate, this like iPhone or Apple Watch, thing into your workout routine, like kind of educational based about what the products did, but we just weren't seeing a ton of that like kind of like more instantaneous growth. So towards the end of my time there, we ended up kind of moving me from being on this like island of my own influencer world to being more on the creative team. And we really doubled down on UGC as this like UGC term blew up in the last year. So what I was doing was working with the creative team on basically supplying them with like produced video content from influencers. So instead of worrying
Okay.
about distribution's out the window at this point. I would just find content creators, even like actor types, that would create content that followed the brief. I would coach them the same way I would coach an influencer on, brand messaging and all of that. And then we would own the content rights. We would purchase the video content rights, and then it would get run through ads on the performance side. And that actually did pretty well because influencer content on performance tends to always do better than like branded ads. Um,
Yeah.
but we had a little bit of a issue, I guess, and not to be like negative, but just scaling that and making it kind of make sense. So I ended up leaving Fiat in February, and this is kind of another long story, but I'll try to make it short. But I had always been responsible at the last like not 4 or 5, but the last like couple places that I'd worked, Golan, I think maybe a little bit at Ketchum, and then definitely at Fiat, of kind of like spearheading the playbook of influencer. I'd always been like on the team that was working on it. At Fiat, I was the only person working on it. And I had written this playbook now like 3 or 4 times, how to do influencer, really like formalizing the process. And I one night like woke up and I'm like, why am I doing this for other people? Like this is all coming from information that nobody else has because nobody else has been doing it as long as me, like in my world. And I'm like, I need to like make this mine. Like I need to own this. This is mind share from my brain that like I keep giving to everyone that I work with, and it's mine. Like it's my experience. So I started writing a book. Like I just out of the blue just started writing a book in Google Sheets. And when I left Fiat, I was like, why not? That was the perfect time to like make this into something. So I finished it, I formalized it, I updated it, I added in templates and a like a really extensive glossary, and turned it into like basically an ebook. I call it a guide, but it's really like an ebook. And I built a website and built a company. It's influencerinsiderguide.com. And the purpose of it was number one, just to get it out of my brain and on to something that I could share. But number two, it's because as we're getting more deep into like conversion and all and like how the algorithms work and all the like current stuff in influencer marketing, I don't want to forget where we started. Like I don't want to forget the like how to build the relationships, how to engage the right influencers, how to find your target audience, like all the basics that you and I really understand from working in PR. I don't want that to just like become a thing of the past. So it's my way of kind of uncovering how the brands look at influencer marketing in a very strategic and formal way, and putting it in a guide that's very easy to follow. And it is verbalized in a way that I speak. It's very conversational. It's not scary. It's making sure that that all of this stuff is very scalable, and anyone can do it. You can get, if you are a lawyer, if you're a doctor, if you're a mechanic and you want to work with influencers, there's a way to do it, and you can start small. And that was the point of kind of putting it all together.
And so is that the target audience for this book, or is more smaller, kind of regionalized small businesses?
Yeah, I think the initial, so I have a sample like client, or a sample like target person that would be reading it in the book, and it's Rose Artisan Soap Shop. I just made it up, but it's like a West Loop Chicago based like kind of cool soap store. So that was kind of like who I was thinking as I wrote it. But as I started writing it, and as it's now been out and seeing who it's resonating with, the audiences are really founders and like marketing executives of small to medium sized businesses. And then there's also a market for students. I think that was also kind of in my head, is people that are just graduating or in college or maybe going to grad school and are like, I want to get into this field, but like, how does this all work? So there's definitely a student kind of play there. And then also potentially I'm exploring, this is all still very new, but exploring sort of like a B2B with education for bigger businesses, whether that's me myself coming and teaching it, or if it's turning it into more of like a training manual type of thing. Some of my I also, do business consults, and some of my clients are agencies. Like they're advertising agencies that do more traditional advertising, or PR agencies that don't have like an influencer arm. And they love this because They don't want to hire a bunch of full-time people. They're not necessarily doing it all the time. So it's more of kind of like an easy way to sort of piecemeal having this like department when they need it.
B2B marketers, get ready. The world's leading B2B marketing expo is returning to the Los Angeles Convention Center September 20th and 21st. This is the world's leading event for marketing solutions and innovation, and tickets are free. Join thousands of marketing professionals just like you to learn from over 100 industry expert speakers, educational masterclasses, and over 150 exhibitors. Hear keynotes from Amazon Music, Google, Netflix, Twitch, and Uber. It's September 20th and 21st at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Free tickets. Go to bit.ly/MPNB2B to register. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/MPNB2B. The Marketing Podcast Network is a proud partner of the B2B Marketing Expo for 2023. We'll see you in LA.
Support for The Art of Sway and all the shows in the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by ActiveCampaign. If you are looking for a way to grow your business, you need to check out ActiveCampaign. It is a powerful marketing automation platform that can help you to increase your sales, improve your customer service, and build stronger relationships with your customers. With ActiveCampaign, you can create and send email campaigns, manage your leads and customers, create landing pages, set up automated workflows, and track your results all in one approachable platform. ActiveCampaign has over 10,000 five-star reviews on G2 from happy users. Preview Me is one. They're a B2B software company that uses ActiveCampaign to send their prospective customers highly visual and personalized emails as they progress through CRM stages such as completing a demo. This has increased their click-through rates 96%. If you are serious about growing your business, you need to check out ActiveCampaign. Try it today for free and see how it can help you to achieve your goals. For a limited time, ActiveCampaign is offering Art of Sway listeners a chance to double your contacts for free when you sign up at activecampaign.com/activate. That means if your email list has 10,000 contacts, you only need to pay for 5,000. Or you can pay for the 10,000 and get an extra 10,000 totally free. Personalize your customer experience, but do it with automation, just like 185,000 businesses have at ActiveCampaign. Go to activecampaign.com/activate to sign up today. That's activecampaign.com/activate. Terms and conditions apply. Yeah, I could see it being appreciated because one of the things that we like, some of our best clients are those smaller type of agencies who just, they're not going to launch they're not going to launch an influencer arm. They're not going to create a whole new division, but their clients trust them. Their clients love working with them. Their clients are asking for influencer. And so we come in either like white labeled, gray labeled, I like to say, or sometimes like being fully open that like, hey, we're partnering with them. But it's because it's difficult, I think, and I'm curious as to how the guide kind of addresses this. But the person who's great at recruitment is not necessarily going to be the person who's great at briefing the influencer or doing the analytics. And so I think that is the most overwhelming piece of influencer for a small business or, you know, whether it's brand or agency, is that it's not as simple as like finding someone who loves influencer on your team and asking them to do it on the side, or bringing in a single person to do the whole thing, because there's so many pieces and parts of it, and it can be very difficult to be good at all of them. So I can see where having a guide is helpful, because there might be some areas where you're like, okay, this I got, this I understand, and this part, wow, this is tricky for me.
Yeah, totally. And it's meant to be sort of a 101 of everything. And again, it's very like not scary. Like, you can do this. I think a lot of people come into it and they're like, I understand how to like find people on social media and message them. Like, that's not a like rocket science concept. Like, you find someone that likes your product, you say, hey, do you want some of this? Like, some of the basics are some people don't know that. Like, some people are like, you can just message them. Like, some people come in like truly unsure of how the whole thing works. But some people do come in. Like, I'm working with a girl now that has a clothing store. Like, she talks to influencers all day long. They're messaging her about the stuff that they wear and stuff. But then she's like, what's next? Like, now that I've made that connection, then you can go to the section of the guide that's about negotiation and discuss how you start having the conversation about money, what usage looks like, if you're going to add an exclusivity, what that looks like, and kind of go deeper. It's definitely not a guide for someone that's been doing this for years and years and years and wants to like up the ante. This is basic stuff. But one of the main things that I'm trying to like get across is that if you have a soap store, let's just use my little example, and all you want to do is like engage with an influencer, put a list of 5 influencers that you want to work with together and just send them soap. Like that's the basics of influencer marketing. It does not
Right.
have to be complicated. Just send them some soap, hand write a note that you really love their content and you'd love for them to try it. No strings attached, and just see what comes back. You might get social posts. You might get them reaching back out saying, I want to work with you. You might have them say, come do a pop-up with me. Like, it's relationships. That's all this industry is. So start with that. I mean, and that's free. That's just the cost of postage.
Yeah. I think it's so easy, like being so in this for so many years as you and I both have. I think it's easy for us to forget how it can seem overwhelming and complicated when you're in it every day. Like my best friend is an acupuncturist in LA, and she would love to have influencers talking about her. And I'm like the worst best friend ever because I'm like, stop asking me questions. But she's like, so I went to this class and I heard I should use Fiverr. And I was like, you are not finding influencers on Fiverr. What are you talking about? So I think like I definitely feel like there's a lot of small business owners who are just completely overwhelmed and don't know where to start and are getting bad advice and are taking advice from wherever they can get it without knowing whether it's a trusted source. So it's nice to know that someone who like actually knows what they're doing and is not going to suggest finding influencers on Fiverr
Right.
is out there
Totally.
giving advice.
It's hard when it's your own business too, like for founders. Like you're in like the same way that we're an influencer every day, they're in like their clothing store, their coffee shop every day. And you know, there's a little bit of like not imposter syndrome, but there's that like insecurity of like, does anyone want to talk about me? And my message to them is go find them. Just start conversations. If there's a girl that you see sitting at your coffee shop every day on her computer, see if she'll take a picture and post it. Like it can start that organic, and it should. In my opinion, that's how it should start. It shouldn't be the spray and pray method where you're just blasting millions of influencers or influencer blasting millions of brands. Like that is the most inefficient way to go about partnerships. You know, it really should start from like a real place, and anyone can do it. And any industry where you want to get your name out there should be doing these things. This is the way that we're marketing these days.
And for someone who is starting a business, so maybe it's not there yet, but one of the things I've seen that's super interesting, like I have a friend in Nashville who opened a coffee shop last year, and this coffee shop is like tailor-made for TikTok. Like everything about this coffee shop is made for TikTok. Like there's a mirror that you can write messages on and take a picture in front of. And she built the whole thing from scratch. And the grout is hot pink and the drinks have glitter. And
Oh my God.
like everything about it is just made. And she just did it because she thinks it's all, she just wanted to be fun. And that's what she wanted to do. But I think because she's young, like it's just how her brain worked. So like what advice would you give for someone just starting a business now? It seems to me that you're missing something if you don't include elements in it that make your business kind of social media and influencer friendly and like appealing to people who want to document their time in your store.
Yeah, and then
interacting with your brand.
Having like a home base too is like setting you you're already ahead of the game because so much is e-com these days. So the fact that she has like a actual like physical spot that she can be hosting pop-ups, she can be hosting influencer meetups, like she should be doing all this stuff. You know, she should have people like me come in and speak to influencers on content, or, you know, like there's so much opportunity of just bringing people in. And then I'm sure because it's already this beautiful environment that people are probably putting on TikTok every day, she should be scouring TikTok for the keywords, whatever people are tagging. There should be hashtags everywhere so that she can easily track.
She did the coolest thing this weekend because she's in Nashville. And so the Taylor Swift was just in Nashville over the weekend. And she like polled her followers on social media, came up with special drinks for the weekend, like did this whole Taylor Swift thing. And there was a line. I mean, they were like nonstop for 6 hours, a line wrapped around the entire. It was like, so she was just like, my kid's nanny is how I know her. And I was like, this is so awesome.
Oh my God, you're making me want to like take a trip to Nashville and go see these guys. But yeah, I mean, there's so much opportunity, and she's a perfect example of someone that like doesn't necessarily need to go out and like figure out how to find her target. Her target is telling her every day that they're her target, like it's so obvious. So finding the people that have the bigger followings, engaging with them. I mean, she's probably got such a in-demand product that she could just offer probably free coffee per week or something and get some sort of content.
She's actually against all of that stuff. It's very interesting. Like some of it's kind of like a Gen Z thing. Like if you take pictures in her shop without asking permission to sell, like she gets very upset. Like not to promote her, but to like she doesn't want to be the location for your influencer photo shoot if it's not about her coffee shop, if that makes sense. Like she has a lot of rules and expectations, and it's just been very interesting to watch.
Interesting.
From afar. It's not hurting her in any way, but it's
she's like luring you in and then putting rules on the table.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's working, so good for her.
So switching gears like completely, I just wanted to talk a little bit. So I know that you're in Highland Park, and there obviously was a terrible tragedy there last 4th of July, a shooting at the annual 4th of July parade. But I know that you became part of this movement called March 4th, working with other moms in Highland Park. And so would just love to hear a little bit about that just in general, and also what it kind of taught you as a marketer, as a mom. Like just I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, no, and thank you so much for like bringing this up and letting me talk about it, because I feel like I go on podcasts all the time talking about influencer marketing, but this is like such a big part of my life. And it's really made me a better marketer, just being part of this group. Not that it at all is because of that. I'm doing it because we have a very, very important mission that we're working towards. But I'll give you the little backstory, and then I can talk kind of like about my role on it. So 4th of July, 2022, a shooter with a assault weapon came in the middle of a parade and just shot bullets raining down on the crowd from a rooftop in Highland Park. And I'm not even going to go into it because it's very emotional, but it destroyed my community. I mean, there's people that had to quit their jobs. There's people that moved. Like it was a very, very destructive situation. And from that, our founder, Kitty Branner, who was a couple towns over, she's from the North Shore, was like, enough. She was a mom that was just like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to continue to send my kids to school and continue to like go about my life like this is normal. So this all happened on social media in like hours. And like, I'm talking like within 3 or 4 days, we were in DC with 500 women marching. Like I've never seen anything in all my years of working with household name brands. I mean, I've worked on very, very large brands. I've never seen anything like this before. All unpaid, all volunteers. So our mission is to federally ban assault weapons, and we support all the other gun violence organizations that are working at state level bans. We think those are very important, but our mission is to get this federal law passed, because without the federal law, the state enforced laws are just really difficult to track. I mean, people can go from one state to another very easily. And the bottom line is there's literally no use for these assault weapons at all. Like you can't go hunting with them. They destroy organs. They liquefy human bodies and animals. There's no need for them aside from just like having them as a hobby. And our message is just that our children are worth more than your hobby. So we do marches in DC. I've been part of 2 of them. They're amazing. We lobby. We have lobbyists there as much as we can. We're obviously all volunteer. And that's just our single mission. And we're not going to stop until this ban gets passed, and we're doing everything in our power. But the women that have come together, it's mostly women. There are men that, support us, but it's primarily moms, some non-moms, that just have come together and just formed this like structured organization. We have lawyers, we have writers, we have an amazing PR team with PR people from the top agencies that are volunteering their time. I work on the partnerships team. I mostly work getting influencers to post about us and just be part of kind of like an ambassador program that we're working through. We have a celebrity buyer that works on the team with us that we just got Elizabeth Banks to sign on as our first big celebrity ambassador. But it's unbelievable. Like the power of mothers and the power of women it's scary how much we can accomplish. And yeah, and I would just encourage anyone that feels passionately. It's about 70% of the country actually does feel passionately about this. According to polls, most people do not want these weapons on our streets. So if you do feel passionately, we'd love to have your support. We're always looking for more volunteers, but it's just been amazing to see something formalized so quickly and with such passion, and all completely volunteer. We take totally grassroots. We take donations to get survivors to the marches, and we use them for, lobbying and things, but no one gets paid. It's all just us wanting to get this bill passed.
That's amazing. Well, and we will put information on the show notes page when this goes live. So
thank you so much.
Thrilled to talk to you about it and have you share more, and we will get as many people as we can over to donate.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like we keep serious, not serious here. So to close things out, this is season 4 of the podcast, which is kind of hard to believe. So for season 4, we are asking everyone to share what's the last thing that you are influenced to buy, read, or watch.
I was just thinking about this, and I feel like this is such a stupid kind of answer, but I feel like I'm in my podcast era. I've been just so consumed with podcasts, and as a mom, the medium just works so well for me because I can just pop in an earbud, and I've been buying so much podcast swag. It sounds so silly, but I'm rather than going to Lululemon or Nordstrom or a real store, I buy hats. I've bought sweatshirts. I've bought sweatpants. Literally half my wardrobe now has random podcast logos on it. My husband's what is that? But it's I want to support them, but I also am just so proud of some of these communities that I feel I'm part of from these podcasts that I listen to all the time. So that was kind of my fun, weird thing that I've been influenced by, because I feel anytime someone's we've got new merch up, I'm oh my God, and I run to the website.
Love it. I love it. I was just sharing on LinkedIn this morning that one of the last things I was influenced, one of my business partners recommended these very smutty, spicy novels to me by this author named Tessa Bailey. And I jammed through 2 of them last week. And I was these are so this is not great literature. Hey, sometimes
I have to send you one of my good friends who I've worked with at a couple of the agencies. Her name's Molly. She started a book talk, Instagram on books, which is a huge community I didn't even know about, a couple years, less than 2 years ago. And she's already grown massive. The growth in that book world is huge. I'll send you her name because she has really good recommendations.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And they were, some of the team was sending around the other day. They were it was book talk recommendations for your relationship. And it was these women teaching their husband to grab their chin gently and to do this move that they always describe in the books. That's very sexy and alluring, and no guy would ever do it on his own. And so it was women, it was a whole TikTok of women training their husbands to do this one move. It was very funny.
Oh my God, I love that.
Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, and it was great chatting with you and learning more about everything. And we will absolutely promote the Influencer Insider Guide and March 4th, and love everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so nice chatting.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to share, and subscribe. Please check back next Monday for a new episode featuring candid conversations that explore the power of influence. I am your host, Danielle Wiley, and this is The Art of Sway.
This podcast is brought to you by Sway Group, a full-service influencer marketing agency. Sway Group specializes in matching brands with the right influencers and creating the kind of branded content people actually pay attention to. For over 12 years, they've been helping businesses just like yours hit their goals with top-notch content strategies. They've got a network of over 45,000 diverse influencers. They don't shy away from challenging campaigns, and they're masters of authentic storytelling. Basically, they've got you covered when it comes to getting your brand in front of the right people. Head over to swaygroup.com and check them out.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.